How's that, guys? You can hear me now?
Echoing.
Yeah, I know it's echoing. I'll fix that. How are we going?
I think we're going good now.
People on YouTube, can you hear us now?
Done. They're happy. They're happy. The masses
Very
are happy.
good. Well, you know, as long as the masses are happy. Very good.
Yep.
All right. G'day, Mac. How you going?
Very good, Josephine. Yeah. Lovely to be here today.
Lovely to be here. We've got lots to talk about apart from the Crows. Disappointing end of the season, and of course, we just spent 5 minutes bagging Carlton, so we'll have to do that again, mate.
I'm happy to do that.
But look, thanks to everyone who's joined us on Discord and obviously on YouTube. Thanks also to those who've supported us throughout the year on Patreon. Lots to talk about tonight, but we are limited tonight, Macca. We can't go over an hour and a half. So,
right.
For domestic reasons. Domestic reasons.
You're under orders, I know that.
Well, I'm not under orders. If I'll be done for child neglect if we don't finish in time.
Something like that.
All right. Okay, so first of all, mate, let's just get into your main the main reason why you're here, to be honest, because it's what everyone seems to value more than anything else. Let me find it. God, I'm just absolutely not with it today, honestly.
We have those days, mate.
There it is.
We all have them.
All right, let's go through the weekend results, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, that's not it. All right, let's just read through them because we still have to find out what's
Okay.
going on. Friday, Melbourne absolutely belted Brisbane. It was a very insipid performance by the Bears, I thought. They don't deserve to be called the Lions because they played like the Bears of old, really, didn't they?
Well, more like Koala Bears, really. The D's came out firing and they just kicked them out the way, and 11 goals up at half time. Second half was pretty even, but the damage is all done. Oliver and Petrarca were outstanding as usual. Pickett kicked 4 goals. Wouldn't you love to have him? And Neil was best for Brisbane. And
yeah. So what's the problem with Brisbane? I think actually their midfield has aged during this season. Zorko's a shadow of his former self. I think they're a midfielder short, and they've gone all in on Buddy, obviously. I don't reckon they have enough midfield power, to be honest with you.
You're on the money. You're on the money because they got slaughtered in the midfield, and you're quite right because they have when their midfielders include blokes like Robinson, who's on his last legs, and Lockie Neal. You lock him down, and the other blokes aren't quite up to it. So you're on the money there, Fane.
Yep. So they've got a bit of thinking to do, and the other thing they've got to think about is whether Chris Fagan is going to take them to the promised land. He's certainly done well in getting them to be consistently competitive, but can they take the extra step with him? Is he tactically sufficient for them? I'm not quite sure, mate.
I think they are done for the year. I don't think they'll do anything in the finals whatsoever, and I think you've hit it right on the head. Fagan was very good for them at the time he came in. Now they need somebody just a little bit better and a little bit smarter. That's my opinion.
And it reminds you a little bit about our coach, maybe. Anyway, let's move on. Fremantle getting the job done over the Giants, 13-11-89 to 10-9-69. Freo ending up just missing out on the top 4, but heading into the finals with some good form.
Yep, GWS jumped them early, got 31 points up early in the second quarter. But after that, the Dockers just ground them down gradually to lead at three-quarter time, and then kicked off a late challenge to go on and win by 20 points. GWS, not a bad effort by them, but they just weren't up to the class. They've really found a player this year, Taylor at fullback. I think he's outstanding. And for Freo, interesting, we talk about drafting and trading, Fiend. Sarong and Brody were the 2 best for Freo.
Yes, and wasn't that a sliding doors moment for us?
Yep, and Fife, for example. I just want to say something about Fife. I think he's done. He doesn't look like a shadow of a player.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how he comes back after a rest. I reckon he carries a fair bit in terms of injuries. I don't know how well he's come back. It's not easy to come back from a broken leg.
No, not too easy. I think he's actually at the moment. I think they go better when he doesn't play.
Interesting to see how they use him going forward. The Suns finishing off the year well, 16-18, 114 to North Melbourne, who probably couldn't have given a shit after getting Al Clarkson during the week, 6-11-47. Yeah.
Summed it up well there. Nothing to say. Jason Horne-Francis got 20 possessions. I think the signing of Clarkson is going to make it a little bit harder perhaps to get him out of that club. We'll wait and see. That's another year.
That's another year and another discussion. We had Geelong poleaxing West Coast Eagles. The Eagles would be happy for the season to be over. Geelong playing in front of their adoring crowd with Danger hitting his 300. Didn't that sneak up quickly? Danger's 300. I think he's in the top 10 quickest players to 300 games of all time, actually. Geelong 1917, 131, Eagles 74, 46.
Well, I'll be totally honest. I started watching this game and I went outside and pulled some weeds out instead. It was so bloody boring. And that's fact. And the only thing I did, I came back in time just to see Dangerfield charging through a pack and taking out his own teammate Guthrie, injuring his shoulder and sending him off the ground. But it was a boring match there if you were just a non-interested party.
Yeah, nothing at all, really. We had the Rabble going down to Richmond. Richmond finishing the minor round strong and hitting the finals with some decent form. Might be a bit disruptive in the first round of the finals, I think, Richmond. 21-15, 141 to Essendon, 11-9, 79. Truck Rutten's last match. Bombers are a rabble. They're rife with politics in there. They're doing an external review. I think Sheedy's been a disruptor on that board. They got a lot of work to do, Essendon.
Yeah, I didn't see the game because it coincided with ours. 85 points. There's not much to say. I think you summed it up nicely, Finn.
Yep. Feel sorry for Truck. He'll probably get a senior assistant gig or an assistant gig next year, and I hope things work out for him. Ironically, I hope Al Clarkson's in the market for a defensive line coach because it'd be fantastic to see Truck down at North next year.
Yeah, look, I thought Essendon have gone badly, but the way that they've handled the situation, the North Melbourne board, Essendon board, this new chairman, he's got no idea how to handle situations. It's probably be the worst managed situation I've seen.
Doesn't he sound like the most uninspiring character you've ever seen? He fumbles over his words and he can't answer questions directly, and I don't know. I reckon the coterie down at Essendon and a couple of board members are running that show at the moment.
No doubt about that. And look, to me, he just sounded like he'd be lucky to pass grade 7, I reckon.
Yeah. And look, it's not as if Alistair Clarkson being on the market was a secret this year. So for them to get all the way to round 22 before even approaching him directly is ridiculous. And they clearly didn't think much of his integrity to think that he would undo weeks and weeks and weeks of negotiations with North Melbourne just to come over to Essendon at the death. And, you know, Port were calling us arrogant and entitled during the week, but I reckon they should have been talking about Essendon because that's the epitome of arrogance and entitlement, if you ask me.
Yep. You're on fire tonight, Fiend. You're summing up beautifully.
Thanks, mate. I can't run a bloody stream that I've been doing for 5 years. But anyway, the Bulldogs getting the job done that they needed to do, 12-15-87, only their second win against Hawthorn, I think, in Tasmania, 10-4-64. The Hawks didn't look too bad in patches. The Bulldogs didn't look overly inspiring. The Bulldogs have got a good side. They just seem to be underperforming at the moment, Mac.
Yes, look, they do have deficiencies in certain spots on the ground. They've got massive strengths in certain spots and deficiencies, particularly in defence. And in their attack,
only in defence.
Well, not only. I think they're a bit light on up in the forward lines as well. They've got so many mids. They've got more mids than any other team, and they play them on the wing, they play them on the half, forward flanks, etc., etc. But they're not really what I would call a balanced team, and they're not going to win no flag. I mean, I watched the game today, and I thought that Hawthorn were right in that game until possibly into the last quarter. They've got into the 8, but that's about where they'll finish.
I mean, I agree with you with their back line, but their forward line, particularly with Josh Bruce back, and I know he's underdone and everything, but Norton, Bruce, and that young lad, what's his name? Darcy, I think. They've got three
But
pretty
yeah,
good tools there.
yeah, unfortunately,
So what are they lacking?
Um,
Up forward.
well, certainly I think their coach is half insane. I think um, he, I think he's one of the problems. I really do think they probably need a new voice as well.
Look, it's possible. It's possible. I just feel like they underperform for the squad that they have. Anyway, and then the match of the round. Oh my God, Mac. How did Carlton lose that? How did they lose that? That has got to be not only this match, but this last 3 or 4 games of the season. How have they missed the 8? I think they're the first team, or they're the first team ever to spend the entire season in the 8 and miss out on finals.
That's actually true. Actually, that's a fact. Look, they worked very hard to lose the game from the 7-minute, with about 7.5 minutes to go, and then Collingwood needed 3 goals to catch them, and Carlton were playing good enough to win the game. All of a sudden, I don't know whether it's a coach's decision or whether it's a players on the ground decision. They shut up shop, and their attacking wasn't in the same damaging manner as it was before. And then there was 2 particular incidents which lost the game, in my opinion. I mean, bear in mind they needed 1 point in the last couple of minutes to.
Yeah, Durden made a big blue. Durden made a big blue there. He should have just kicked it to the square.
Before that, Curnow actually had Durden sitting on the 50-metre line on his own, and he could have passed it over to him, and Durden could have run and had a shot, and maybe got a goal or a point. But then Durden compounded massively by kicking it to a forward pocket where there was no player other than a Collingwood player. And then on top of that, the big boy, Cripps, trying to smash through 3 players instead of just like a wild handball would have been much better than getting
just send it forward. Yeah, it was like they didn't realise that if they drew, they were in. You know, they kept at that point. All you need to do was kick a point.
I don't think that it occurred to them. I honestly don't think it occurred to them because the way they're playing, they should have been just bowling to the square with a fist to punch it through. Simple as that.
Yeah, and say what you like about Jamie Elliott, but that was a clutch goal at the end, and he made it look simple. He had a bloke inside, Ginnivan. He had another bloke in the square, but he took it upon himself. And just never looked like missing. He slotted it coolly and calmly, and game over. That was a very clutch goal.
And look, he's done it many times before. And as I said earlier, I was feeling sorry a little bit for the Carlton supporters. And then I realised that Sam McClure is a passionate Carlton supporter. I thought, yes.
Yep, absolutely. Sam McClure would be crying in his little cornflakes at the moment, and I don't have a scrap of sympathy. Anyway, and the last game of the round, which saw Sydney get into the top 4, beating a gallant St Kilda by 14 points, 13-10, 88 to 11-8, 74.
Didn't get to see it, but I think by then I'd had enough of footy. I watched the Carlton Collingwood game, and by then I thought,
had enough of footy, Mac. That's not like you.
No, but I had Whiting coming up for tea, so that, just looking forward to that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and I thought, I'll just go and have a little rest. I've had enough of it. But
fair enough.
Yeah, but Sydney failed in their at half-time. They were just about on target, trying to, if they kept on at that rate, to get the second spot. But in the second half, unfortunately for them, St Kilda did rally, and it cost them any chance to get that second spot.
Quick look at the ladder, see how we finished up. Geelong on top, obviously, with 72 points. Melbourne, I've got a feeling about Melbourne. Melbourne are playing like a team that only had one thing in mind, Mac, and that was finals all year, in my opinion. I reckon they're a bit better than 2 games behind Geelong.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Melbourne have proven that their game plan will stand up in finals and will stand up in the grand final. And I've been saying most of the year I didn't think Geelong can't win the premiership. I still don't think they will. They have adjusted their style of play quite a bit, actually, from how they were doing it before, that slow possession game. They've been trying to get it much quicker, but I still think that the calibre of player just spread evenly across Melbourne is just a little bit better than most sides.
Yeah, they're still my pick. And I'll tell you what, the Swans getting into the top four, and someone put up a tweet, I think, before, and against the top 8 sides, Sydney have the best record this season, followed by Melbourne. So look out.
Sydney are capable of anything on their day. They really are.
Yep, they certainly are. Collingwood sneak into the top 4 with probably the worst percentage, I reckon, in living memory for a top 4 side. Considering Carlton were 4% above them and couldn't make it. Freo 5th, Brisbane 6th, Richmond 7th, and the Bulldogs sneaking in, Carlton sneaking out, and then St Kilda, Port, Gold Coast, Hawthorn, Adelaide with pick 5, notwithstanding priority picks and whatnot. Essendon, GWS having a terrible season, West Coast and North Melbourne. So, Mac, considering we're not going to do a lot during the finals with the podcast, what's your feel for the finals?
Well, I feel that, there's quite a few sides here that can't win it. The ones I know that they've improved the chances of the team down in the bottom 4 of the top 8 by having the week off, but I still think the quality is up in the top 3, and I think that's so. where the flag will come from. The others are just there to make up the number, and it wouldn't be a shock for any of those top 3 to win. We're saying that we like Melbourne, but if Geelong keep playing and manage to keep it up in finals and perform as well, they could win it. And the same with Sydney, but I really think that they have only 3 chances to win it.
Well, let's have a look at the first week real quick. We've got the Lions playing Richmond at the Gabba. On form, you would almost have Richmond as favourites there. Brisbane have really tailed off, and that's going to be quite an interesting game. If Richmond can get their attacking flow going, I don't know whether Brisbane have got the midfield to stop them, to be honest.
I agree with that.
Melbourne and Sydney is going to be a classic if they both bring their A games at the MCG. Sydney aren't afraid of the MCG. Melbourne hitting the finals with good form. You'd expect Melbourne to get up on that one, but as you say, Sydney capable of anything. Well,
yeah, I'm expecting Melbourne to win, but would not be surprised if the Sydney did, because at their best, they can beat anybody.
Yeah. So that's on Friday night. The previous game's on the Thursday night. And then on the Saturday, a weird fixturing in my view. On the Saturday at 4, we've got Geelong and Collingwood at the G. Obviously, Collingwood benefiting from being tenants of the G. Geelong would want to be a fair way in front with about 5 minutes to go. Collingwood have made a habit of coming home with a wet sail.
They have. I still think though they should be too strong, but though I say this for Collingwood, McRae's really got them playing with a lot of heart. Really a lot of heart, and never give up. So, but yeah, I'm picking Geelong.
Yep, and Freo should get the job done in the late game on Saturday evening against Western Bulldogs. You would think.
Agreed.
So that was it for the round. Of course, what we're concerned about is the game between Port Adelaide and Adelaide, and 56 points in the end, Mac. Port 16-15, 111 to Adelaide 7-13, 55. After quarter time and particularly after half time, we didn't really give a yelp. I felt we looked flat last week and got over the line. We even struggled against West Coast the week before. I feel like we were just staggering to the line, and Port far too strong.
Well, I thought we were very, very poor in the second half, and I mean extremely poor in the second half. The first quarter, I thought we were playing that contested game that we play, and I thought we should have probably. I can't remember whether we did or did not lead at quarter time. I think we didn't.
No, it was pretty much even. We might have been down by
a point or two. But
yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make reference, and I think it was in the first quarter. There was a shocking bloody incident. Bloody Keys. I mean, that kick for goal thing. Any under 10 player would have been embarrassed to do that kick. Look, he's 5 metres out from goal, and it's looped off his boot. Oh, whatever it was. But I mean, it just went at right angles to where he's supposed to be kicked 2, 3, for a point, and only just made it to there. That was a kick of an under 10. That's the worst kick I've seen in AFL football, I reckon. That was shocking. Well, others reckon it's not. He's done worse. But no, but coming back to the game, second quarter, I thought we waned a little bit early in the second quarter, but then we sort of rallied at the end of the second quarter. But that was it. We packed our kit bags and gone home. The second half was terrible.
Yeah, look, a lot of people losing their mind over this game, and all right, it was a showdown, and we don't like losing showdowns, and it was 56 points in the end, which was a fair shellacking. But to be honest with you, Mac, not a huge amount riding on it. Again, I reckon we've been flat for the last 3 weeks. I reckon we've run out of steam. A few players run out of steam. And I'm not disappointed from the point of view that it doesn't let us go into the off-season with any rose-coloured glasses on whatsoever. I think that game gave us a very good snapshot of exactly where our list is at the moment, which I'm quite pleased about, irrespective of the result, which was meaningless. So I'm not disappointed, because the last thing I wanted was a big, finish the season off strong, beat Port Adelaide, everyone's pumping up the tyres, and we maybe lose a bit of perspective on where this list is actually at.
I think you make an extremely good point, Bean, and actually you are on fire tonight. That probably would have been a bad thing for us to go in with a win. We would have been thinking that we're on our way to a premiership just about. Would have got all carried away. I mean, not really to a premiership, but we were exposed. We were exposed for our weaknesses, and I think that's good, because you can't improve unless you actually define what your weaknesses are. And Port Adelaide did it for us. They defined it, and they also defined which players don't stand up when the pressure was on as well.
Yeah, it was quite evident, and I felt it was a really good snapshot of where we're at. But quickly, regarding selection, were you surprised that they brought in Miller instead of Gallant for McAdam?
Yes, totally. Gallant should have been there, and I think Miller's game is so poor, in my opinion. I think it's so poor that it just proves Gallant should have been there.
Well, I don't think we were served at all by Miller's presence, and I don't think I've said it for weeks and weeks and weeks, I just don't think at AFL level, as it stands at the moment, he can play in front of the ball. Simple as that. And we certainly... One thing that Shane McAdam has really improved on this year is his defensive efforts up forward. And we absolutely stank defensively in our forward 50. James Rowe hasn't got a defensive bone in his body when it comes to, attacks bouncing off of halfback. And Port Adelaide, after quarter time, when our forward 50 entries started to fall off and we started picking out a leer again like we always do, we had no pressure at ground level. They were just able to bounce off that halfback line continually. There was absolutely no pressure whatsoever, and I think a lot of that again was down to our selection.
Well, I totally agree with you. I mean, Rowe was an absolute shocker. He had 4 possessions. I mean, Davis came on for the last quarter and had 5. But coming back to Rowe, I remember the commentator saying at one stage, and this is actually a fact, he said, Rowe's everywhere. And I thought he must be in the bloody crowd because I can't see him getting the ball out there. Seriously,
Yeah.
he was a shocker.
Yeah, so I was a bit disappointed with that.
I think
Sorry,
Murray actually put his name forward in a must get rid of category.
Well, look, he's certainly slipped out of best 22, in my opinion. He doesn't kick any goals. He doesn't apply any defensive pressure. He seems to only be able to get the ball on the lead up high. And all right, he's not a bad user of the ball, and he's got good footy IQ, but you need a bit more than that at AFL level. And he's not offering enough. He's either got to get fitter. He's either got to get fitter, or they've got to redefine his role and get him playing closer to goals. Because as it stands at the moment, we did the same thing that we always do, Mac. We played McHenry and Murphy up high. We had Rowe up high, which left us top heavy at the fall of the ball with our forward 50 entries. We had no defensive effort whatsoever, and they were just able to run it off half-back continually. And you've only got to look at the disparity, and we'll go through head-to-heads in a minute, but you've only got to look at the disparity in uncontested possessions to understand that every ball that we got was hard-earned, and Port Adelaide were able to absolutely destroy us on the outside and just use the ball under, relatively little pressure.
Oh, look, the uncontested possessions were enormous. I don't know what they actually were, but they had massive uncontested possession. And basically, because they were prepared to work a lot harder than us too, Finn. I mean, if they got the ball, say, at 10.5 back, they're blokes streaming from defence up along towards the centre wing, and they give them to them, and which drew our other player to go back to there, then over the top, and so on and so on. They just did it as at will, and they had a massive amount of uncontested possession, whereas we were just scratching and very ordinary.
Well, look, let's go through head-to-heads because I don't think enough has actually been made of this. Just bear with me a second. Because the stats are actually quite telling. Bring it up here from the AFL website. So there was 124 disparity, Mac, in disposals. 401 Port Adelaide, 287 Adelaide. Kicks 237 to 166, which is 71 more kicks Port had, and 164 to 121 handballs, which is 43. I mean, there's a massive disparity in disposals.
Thrashing.
Right?
A thrashing.
Inside 50s, 61 to 48. You're never going to win a game giving up 61 inside 50s. Disposal efficiency, Port went at 71. That's because they had it so much on the outside under very little pressure. We went at 63. Port, 57% efficiency inside 50. Ours was only 37.5. Free kicks were even. Riley O'Brien. I thought Riley O'Brien's ruck work in the first quarter and his general play in the first quarter was quite good. In fact, I rated him probably in our top 3 at quarter time. But then he just reverted to the same old, tap into convenient places. The Port officers shifted their configuration in the middle of round, and Riley was just tapping it where he always taps it. He's the easiest ruckman in the world to read. The spoiling teammates sit with marks and all the rest of it. So I was disappointed. He started really well, Riley, I'll give him that, but he fell away dramatically when they started to work him out.
The only thing I will say in his favour, though, Fiend, and I have been one of his greatest critics all year, because I'd hate to rove to him, but I will say this: he did try all game, and they're not just in the ruck, around the ground, around the ground as well. And we had a lot of other players who I thought were embarrassed by his efforts versus theirs.
But let's not forget, who were Port's ruckman?
Yeah, Finlayson, yeah. Well, that's true. It's a very good point. Very good point.
Right, he didn't have a ruckman against him. It was Finlayson and Power Pepper, and a bit of Dixon, although Dixon tended to go up against Stilthorpe more often than not.
But having said that, I was still giving credit for kudos for his efforts. He did really put in thing.
Yep. Clearances 45 to 40, including 12 to 13 our way in centre, and 33-27 around stoppage. And then we get to possessions. Contested possession was even at 146 each. But look at this. Uncontested possessions, 236 to 129. That is 107, Macca, more uncontested possessions in one game of football. I don't think I've ever seen such a big disparity.
Well, no, I haven't either. But it's obviously what struck me about the whole game, how easy they did it, because it's only due to the fact they kept running and drawing players and kicking to the next bloke on his own, and they just did it very good and very, very well. And
but it starts from half back, Mac. It starts from that lack of pressure off half back. They get the first possession off half back, and we're just chasing tail the whole time.
Back even further than that, Fiend. Back even further, or even right back into the foot. Even when we went in deep in the forward lines, it was the same when they brought it out from there. You're quite right, because most of the times we never got right down there. But yeah, I mean they did it as they liked, and that was because our players either weren't smart enough, or weren't interested enough, were too lazy or too dumb, whatever. But they just did it all game. That they just kick the ball out to bloke on his own. He would draw a player over the top to the next one, and so on. It just kept going the whole game. And
the other thing too was that. Sorry.
I was just going to say, and they did it with pace as well, rather than just, Port of old used to do it pretty slowly, but they did it quite quickly. So, and they just tore us apart.
Well, it was interesting because in the halftime interview with Matty Nix, they said that Nixie said that if you let Port get on the outside, you're going to get cut up, and that's exactly what happened. We didn't seem to have any system or any defensive action whatsoever. It just seemed to me that we were out of gas, in my opinion, just out of gas. And the other thing that happened too, Mac, is that they were prepared to change lanes. We just kept going up and down the line, up and down the line. We refused to take the ball into the corridor. When we switched, it was slow. There was no options at all presented. It was a nothing effort after quarter time, in my opinion.
Well, one thing that irritates me in the game is when we get a point when I see Smith, who's getting bugger all kicks for the game, roar down there so he can have a kick off and run out the square and get another stat. And he did that at least 3 to 4 times out of his big tally of, I think it was 12 disposals for the game. And everyone he gets just bombing it to the same spot all the time, bombing it. And, just whereas they brought the ball out with system. There's nothing I can say about that we did well in that second half whatsoever. Nothing.
Well, as I said, they brought the ball out with system because they were prepared to work harder off half back, and we didn't have any defensive action whatsoever. No frontal pressure whatsoever on them the whole game. As you'd expect, marks were heavily in their favour, 97 to 48. Marks inside 50, 18 to 8, and that was despite Darcy Fogarty taking one of the best contested marks I have seen from a Crows player for a very, very long time. Okay, that mark against Tom Jonas and subsequent goal, that was a ripper of a mark, wasn't it?
It was outstanding because it sort of had got past him, and he's actually got a hand on it and turned his body and went with it. And I just thought it was a fantastic mark.
As the commentators said, Jonas couldn't have done any more to defend that. Not one thing more. It's a very, very good full stop on Darcy's season. I continue to be impressed with him, and also the back half of the season of Riley Thilthorpe in terms of the amount of contested marks that he's been taking, and we'll talk about individuals in a minute, but I thought he also was good in that area. So look, tackles were even 68 to 70. That's because we chased arse all game. Tackles inside 50, 21 to 15, probably flattered us in the end. So look, really the stats told, Mac, the Port's ability to get free on the outside and basically run us ragged just that was the story.
Summed it up beautifully. I mean, and that was just we managed to contain it somewhat in the first half, but in the second half it was just rampant, just absolutely rampant. Interesting to break it up in quarter by quarter and half by half, because I know in the second half it was just rampant, and we just looked like everything. Every time we got one, we were under pressure and couldn't hit a bloody target. No, it was terrible, absolutely terrible.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's have a look at some individuals real quick. Rory Laird, I thought, worked really, really hard at the base of packs. He got 26 disposals, 11-15. I don't know about you, Mac, but it looked to me like Berry was the one that was running with Wines, and Laird was left to do a lot of the inside grunt work, and I thought he did pretty well.
Yeah, well, look, Laird had 26 disposals with 10 tackles. So he was working hard. Berry, 21 disposals with 9 tackles, and those two boys, they can hold their head up high. We got slaughtered in the middle. Not so much slaughtered in the middle, but around the ground more so. But look, if we're going to say where the players gave their heart and soul, those two could at least put their hands up and say they did.
Yeah, Letty, 6 clearances, 6 inside 50s, 10 score involvement, 6 intercepts, 14 contested possessions. I don't think you could ask much more of him on the day. As you mentioned, Berry 21, 11 and 10. Got a bit more of it after half time when I think they released him a little bit. 9 tackles, 6 clearances, 358 metres gained, which is good for Sam. 4 inside 50s, a couple of score involvements. His disposal efficiency was down, which is unfortunate. 12 contested possessions. I thought they were probably our 2 most consistent players over the course of the game.
Yep, I agree. And the other thing you got to remember with Berry too, he's only a second-year player.
Yeah, 100%. Yep, 100%. Jordy Dawson. Now I want to spend a bit of time talking about Dawson. 22 touches, 14 kicks, 8 handballs, 2 marks, 534 metres gained, but 3 inside 50s, 4 score involvements, only went at 54% disposal efficiency. And I think if I was Dawson in my exit interview for the season, I'd be saying to Matthew Nicks, did you really pay a first round pick for a quarterback? Because I just, if that's how we're going to play Jordan Dawson here, then we are wasting an asset. And I think teams have worked him out. They've made him more accountable. And
he was tagged, no.
Yep, he's been tagged. He's been tagged for the back half of the season, Mac, and he does need a little bit of time and space, Jordan. And I just, why you don't play him on the wing, I just don't understand. And I know that we've had today injured and all the rest of it, but Josh Worrell has shown that he's more than capable down there. He should have been playing 6 weeks ago, Josh Worrell. Tom Today actually didn't play too badly, I didn't think, on the weekend, but I will be really disappointed if we see Dawson continue that role next season.
I'll tell you what, you make it very hard for me to criticise you tonight, Fiend, because you're spot on at chin. You're quite right. You don't get a player of his calibre. Look, he used to play a half-back flank, but really he was more centre half-back when he was playing with the Swans, and then they moved him halfway through the season. This is his last year there. He moved him onto the wing. And like his second half of the season, he was cutting them up with it from the wing because he's just got so much talent. And you're quite right. You don't give a first round draft pick to put him down there to try and mop up all the mistakes of all the other players down there. They've got to grow and become accountable for their own positions, rather than him be a prop. So he's meant to be a key player for us. I mean, and for example, when we beat Port the first time, he was up in our forward line kicking the winning goal. So to give a good example of it, he has to be on the wing. There's no doubt about it. Sometimes even in the middle if necessary. but you're not going to put him down right down on the last line of defences, which is what we've been doing. And that just says that our other players are playing so poorly, or maybe the players up ahead of them are playing so poorly that's why they're putting him down there. But that we're never going to go anywhere if we do that.
No. And a couple of people on the chat make a good point, and I agree. He's getting beat up down back. He has to stand in front of packs and get jumped on and all the rest of it. That's not the type of player he is, and he doesn't lack courage. But he's supposed to be the silk, Mac. He's supposed to be the silk, not the workhorse, and just been poorly used, in my opinion, and has had a really good season. But I'll be disappointed in Matthew Nix and the selection committee if that's how they intend to use him when we're moving up the ladder. We've talked about Riley O'Brien. Harry Schomburg disappointed me because he started off really well and then fell in a hole after quarter time or half time in particular. Had 18 touches, 10 and 8, 297 metres gained. I really hope that Harry has a big off season because he needs to get fitter. He needs a harder body, and if he does those two things, that'll complement his skills. He'll find he's got a little bit more time and space, because at the moment he is just getting swallowed up when the pressure valve increases.
Yeah, look, I thought he started extremely well. I thought he was in for a big one, but of course after half time nobody had a big one, so I think he just went into the pack with all the others. But I think you're letting him off a bit lightly there, because he was integral to our midfield, and our midfield got slaughtered. So he's in that group of players that is allowing Port that easy transition. Well, you're right.
To me, that's fitness and that's hardness and concentration.
Oh, he's certainly got to get a lot fitter. He's definitely carrying a lot of puppy fat on him.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's doing anywhere near enough work in the gym. Hopefully Darren Burgess can get hold of him, but the lad's got to commit, to wanting to do that. He's probably had a fair amount of his football life relying on his natural ability, which is huge in my opinion. But at AFL level, you can't rest on your laurels unless you're Gary Ablett. So Harry needs to have a good think about his career over the off season and really commit to turning himself into a quality AFL footballer, because there's definitely one there, Mac, in my opinion.
I agree.
Speaking of AFL players, Jake Saligo finished off the season really well. 18 touches, 12 and 6, 4 tackles, 300 metres gained, 4 clearances as well. He had 2 inside 50s, 2 score involvements, 4 intercepts, 10 contested possessions. For a first-year player, he's probably going to be unlucky to miss out on a Rising Star nomination, but his body of work this year has been the equal of any first-year player that we've had on our list for a while, I think.
No doubt about that. I think you look at him, and there's not that much of him at the moment. His body is not that of an AFL player, but he plays like an AFL player, and he's tough, he's hard, he's fast, he keeps running all day, and he pulls off some miraculous passes under enormous pressure with either foot or by hand. I just think that he is going to be a very, very, very good player for us. Not just an ordinary player, but top echelon type.
That little step that he put on, I forget who it was, might have been Wines, in traffic, was just a thing of beauty. He's so good in traffic. He's unflappable. He doesn't get tackled much in close. He's quite agile and very composed, and I can't wait to see what Jake brings over the next couple of seasons as his body matures, and because he's got a lot of and not only his composure and his skill set, but also his endurance, Macca. He puts a bit more beef on, and he's going to be some player, I believe.
Yeah, love him. I think he's great.
Mitch Hinge had a meh sort of game. I'd see Mitch Hinge as the player that I think should be swapped with Jordy Dawson. I don't know why. I don't know why they have persisted in playing Mitch Hinge higher and Jordy Dawson back. I really don't understand it. Hinge is probably stronger in the air. He's got a good kick. He's a bit harder, so he's better probably defensively than Dawson. I've never been able to understand why those two are playing the opposite roles than what they should be.
Well, you're certainly not on your own in that respect. I've always thought the same, and I know that if you look at Twitter, so many people think the same thing as well, but it's the wrong way around, absolutely the wrong way around. It's
a question I'd really like to ask Matthew Nicks, because I really just don't understand it. Anyway, Benny Keys has really come back to the pack, hasn't he, Ben? We've sung his praises over the course of his time at Adelaide because of his hard efforts and his gut running and all the rest of it. But gee, Mac, I don't know how much we can cop of his terrible skills.
Well, as I said, I've seen under 10s kick better than him. Look, if we are serious about trading this year, if you have a look at what Port have done in the past for trading, they sent Wingard on his way when he was in their better players, and they traded him. Ryan Burton, they traded him when he was a very, very good young player. They're not frightened to get what they want. They haven't been frightened to part with players that can actually get the ball and play well. And
hang on, Keys isn't in that class.
Oh, look, he had a very good first half of the season. I mean,
Mac. You're comparing Ben Keys to Chad Wingard, really?
No.
Really?
Let me finish. Can I finish?
Maybe.
Keys was playing midfield, and he was getting a lot of the ball and a lot of the possession. Not necessarily sweet kicks, but he was getting a lot of the ball. They moved him to a half-forward flank, and he had one good game there. And so they thought, we've got a half-forward flank that can kick goals. No, we haven't. All we've done is take him out the midfield and make him useless on a half-forward flank. That's what happened. And if you go compare his stats for the first half of the year and then compare them, somebody's saying I'm on the Vino and the cones. But you would get something as a trade for him. There's no doubt about that. I'd be quite happy to trade. That's where I'm going to.
I don't think we get any value for Ben Keys.
I don't know.
Don't forget. Let's not forget he was discarded by Brisbane. We picked him up as a delisted free agent. I think we'd be lucky to get a third rounder for him. To be honest.
Well, if you're only going to get that, well, then there's no point. But you might pass him up with another player and get a second round. But look, we're going to have to do something, Wayne, because
and I'm not saying we don't need to turn a few over, but I'm just talking about Ben Keys. I think Ben Keys will end up depth in our squad because he can come in and give you 110% effort. But I think as other players come through, he will be pushed out of our best 22. And even, if we're looking for someone to replace him on a half-forward flank, you've only probably got to look at Rory Sloane coming back next year, who'll probably have first dibs at that role. So, anyway, let's move on. Riley Thilthorpe, as I mentioned. Sorry, go on, Mac.
I was going to say, Riley Thilthorpe. I like this game, actually. I thought that he took he took 5 marks for the game, and I think that every one of them was a very good mark, and some under quite a lot of physical pressure, and some of his pickups off the ground were excellent as well. He's got great skills, and I think he's going to do next year. He's going to be better again, and the year after that he'll be better again. He's one of these players that just the more he plays, the better he'll get. That's what I think, anyhow.
Well, like any tool. I mean, that's you've described just about every tool in the competition.
Yep.
So the people that went early on Riley Thilthorpe just needed to cool their heels because, and let's not forget that Riley has had to do a little bit of work on his the mental side of his game, as we spoke about last week. But good on him for doing so. Look, Chase Jones. Let me just highlight something before we continue. We only had we only had 6 players on the ground with more than 10 or more kicks for the game. 6 players, Macca, with 10 or more kicks for the game.
I was going to raise that thing, that so many players got so few kicks. And that's why there's only very few players can hold their head up high in this game for us.
Yeah. Now, Chase Jones, you're talking about trading. This lad, to me, is very, very tradable. 12 disposals, 8 and 4, 310 metres gained. Had 3 inside 50s, 3 score involvements, went at 58%, 8 contested possessions. To me, Chase is an almost player, Mac. But he lacks spatial awareness, or he seems to anyway. He lacks composure at times. He appears to have good disposal, but his decision making is quite poor. I would be trying to see if we could grab a late second rounder for Chase.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the type of player I'm talking about. Not essential to our team. Somebody there said he's going to be a turner of game for the club. At the Tasmanian DMAC. Look, but he is tradable. I agree with you. And we somehow, we're going after Rankin. But it's not just Rankin we need. We need a bloody good midfielder, thing. We really do.
Yeah, well, I don't want to talk too much about trading. We're talking about individual players, Mac.
But I'm talking about one you could use, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jones needed to be part of our midfield mix by now. He's played 58 games. I think we've seen enough. He's not a bad running defender. Shows flashes, but doesn't get enough of it on the wing. I like his hardness. There are things about Chase that I do like, but I worry about his awareness and his decision making. And after 58 games, I don't think he's the kind of player that we need. Brody Smith, gee whiz. I think Brody has suffered from his concussions, Mac. I think that last concussion that Brody got has really had a big impact. Well,
I don't know if we get anything for trading him, but I would certainly trade him because at the moment he is playing so poorly on that half-back flank. He had 12 possessions for the game. Somebody in the chat said that 8 of those were kick-off from points, and I know that he had quite a few. So that means if that's right, he's earned 4 kicks for the whole bloody game, and the ball's down. He's in nearly all the bloody game. So, and I can't remember him doing a kick that hit a chest. So. I reckon about the last 4 or 5 games in particular, he's just been so poor. Well, 1 tackle he had. He makes me just about vomit when I see him at the moment. He's just doing nothing.
Unfortunately, look, we've got to have a look at our balance down back, and Brody represents someone who's supposed to be a running half-backer, so he's supposed to be a key part of our transition play out of defence, but he's just not offering that at the moment. He doesn't offer a lot defensively. He tries and all the rest of it, but a couple of times I saw him shy away from contests, and I think that's concussion-related. He's never been a good short kick. He's always been a bomb down the line kick. His kick-outs are always long and to the right, and it drives me insane. Always long and to the right. Drives me absolutely nuts. It really does. I don't know how we can't change up our kick-out strategy. I really don't. But I think Smithers has still got a couple of years left in his contract, hasn't he?
I have no idea. But if I remember rightly, when Port traded those two players I mentioned before, they were under contract.
I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm just saying that I can't see Brody Smith being in our best 22 for the next 2 years. I mean, he's barely there now, probably not. And I think it affects our balance down back when you've got Dawson, Duday, Parnell, and Smith all running half backs. Something's got to give there. It's not the right balance. Anyway, Jordy Butts. I mean, Charlie didn't get off the train too much, so I suppose he did all right. Ned McHenry, another one. I have really enjoyed Ned's intensity and his effort and his work rate. But I'm prepared to say, Macca, that he's not an AFL footballer.
Certainly not in the game that he played on the weekend. No.
Where do you play him? You can't play him in the middle. You can't play him on a wing, and you can't play him in the forward line because he's not a goal kicker. So, as Rabbit says, you play him in the SANFL because he's not. Unfortunately, I love the kid's ethic. And I find it really hard to be critical of Ned because he tries so hard and he works so hard, but it's all effort and no reward, and there's no there's no reward for all his effort because it's just a big bundle of effort. There's nothing really that stands out as a weapon apart from his ability to harass. And it's just not enough.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. The coach loves him. That's a fact. He has played a couple of decent games this year, but if we could go rely on McHenrys and Joneses and players like that for the next few years, well, then we're not going to go too far, are we?
I mean, GP asks, would he be better in a better team? I'd just ask the question again. Like, where do you play him? Where would you play him in a better team? You can't ignore his size, and there aren't many short players that play well, but those that do have weapons. Caleb Daniel is a great distributor off halfback. You've got small forwards that know where the goals are. Like, look at Jamie Elliott today. You couldn't imagine Ned McHenry doing something like that, and I know they're at different stages of their career, but I can't see Ned having that sort of play in him. Unfortunately, I love effort, and I love Ned's effort, so I hate to be critical, but I just don't see it.
Well, the interesting thing about both him and Jones is that they were both midfielders when they played as young lads, and not forward pockets and halfback flankers and whatever. So McHenry was actually a midfielder as a youngster. So
yeah, I know. He played with Sam Walsh, and that's why he was rated highly because they had a good midfield.
But I don't think we ever tried him in the midfield.
Not at AFL level. There was a couple of games where he and Chase were doing quite well in the mids in SANFL level. But
I don't think it would hurt just to pop him in if you're going to play him. I mean, this year's over now, but he would have. If I was a coach, I would have tried him out there just to see if he did it. I mean, he was a good midfielder as a junior, and just to see if he could actually get the ball.
Well, then I think you need to play him for half a season in the SANFL and see if he can get consistently 25 plus disposals, effective disposals.
Yeah,
I don't think you do it at AFL level. I think if you want to reinvent him as a midfielder, and I'm not saying it, Mac, to be honest with you, but if you want to try him as a midfielder, then he's got to do it in the SANFL consistently to even be considered. I just don't think he's quite there, unfortunately.
No, he probably isn't.
Tex, a lot of people were critical of Tex's game. I didn't think it was terrible. I think he was a victim of some pretty poor forward 50 entries, but he tried to get himself into the game, worked himself up the ground, and took a couple of really good contested marks, I thought. So it definitely wasn't our worst, but obviously only hit the scoreboard late with a bit of a gift, so certainly wasn't influential, but I didn't think he was our worst.
No, I agree.
Josh Worrell continued to show a little bit. Got given a fairly big task on Gray for a lot of the game and didn't disgrace himself. Gray, obviously, at the end of his career, but I still have to ask the question, what did Josh have to do to get picked early on?
Yeah, fair comment too, because he's actually played. Somebody said Worrell was a tick, and I agree. I'd give him a tick for his game because he's playing on a very good player with the ball coming down there 100 times more than anywhere else. So I thought Worrell he done a pretty good job. And he doesn't look uncomfortable there, Feeney, and he doesn't panic either. He looks quite comfortable.
And I'm telling you what, there's a bit of young Gary Ayres about Worrell, about his face. He's got that big square jaw and the flowing mullet going. You have a look next time. There was a bit of a close-up of him, and I thought, oh, shit, that's Gary Ayres. If he turns out like Gary Ayres, I won't mind that at all.
Well, I'm going to say as a player, yes, but not so much in the looks department.
Tom Didé, I thought was okay early, and then, like everyone else, just sort of fell away. I think we'll obviously benefit from the off-season. Tom?
Oh, I thought Tom started well, and then I thought he's in for a good game, but no, he wasn't. He after that, and in fairness to the guys down back, with the way the ball was coming in there, very, very hard. Very, very hard indeed.
Yeah. Would you put him on the trade table, Mac?
I would, and I know I'm going to get crucified for saying it, but he has got status out there. He hasn't had a great year, but by the same token, he would command a good trade pick. And
I tell you who shits me is Razor in the chat every time we talk about trading someone. Now, Razor, I'm sure you want to get good players into the club. I'm just wondering what you think we have to give up to get them.
Yeah, and look, I'd support you on that, Ben, because if you look at what we've got to trade with, we've got pick 5, and I think it's pick 23 after that, which will probably, both of those will probably blow out a little bit. And the next pick after that is pick 77. So we don't have a lot of trade capital yet. We want to get good players into the club. And to get good players in the club, you have to give good players. We're going to be actually trading out some very second-rate players, and we'll get some we'll probably get quite a few poorish picks for them. But if you want to get a decent draft pick, and so you can chase a decent player, you've got to have the trade capital to do it. And you can say, I'll trade Miller, but at the moment, what would you get for Miller? Not too much. Yeah.
And I think that's people need to be quiet about Brendan Cox too. He's not coming in. We'll wait until he's a free agent. This isn't a commentary. I'm a fan of Tom Didé. I actually was defending him when a couple of other people were, smashing into him, basically. But when I look at what sort of trade capital we've got, he strikes me as someone who is a quality player that plays in a position that is probably expendable. And that we've got a bit of cover for. So, I certainly wouldn't be disappointed if Tom stayed with the club, because he's an excellent player. But if we're talking about trying to get good players in positions that we need into the club, then Tom's the type of player I think that might be bandied around.
Yeah, and I understand why people out there don't like to hear about good players being traded out. But the whole point is, if you want to get a good player into the club, you're going to have to give something. Now, it might not be due date, but we're saying that he's one that has got trade capital, and the club might say, well, no, we don't want to get rid of him. But there's going to have to be a player of that type of standard to get it if you're going to get a decent player back into the club.
Yeah. Lockie Murphy, put him in the Ned McHenry basket, in my opinion. You basically ditto with Lockie Murphy.
Yeah, look, he does some nice things on occasions, but not enough of them. That's the trouble. Murphy was Murphy. But sums it up.
Wayne Miller, 3 kicks for the game. I don't know what to say. Mac, I've never really been a massive Miller fan. I've had arguments on Big Footy with people about Miller early in his career. I know he's got good agility when he's on song. He can be flashy. I don't think he's a player that can be relied upon. I just feel like he's a downhill skier, and he's very soft. I agree with Davo in the chat. I just don't think he's a reliable player. I don't see him having a successful long-term AFL career. I think he probably looks fantastic on the track, Mac, silky and all the rest of it on the track, but in the clinches, in a tough AFL game, he's just nowhere.
Well, the only place he's ever looked like a good AFL player to me is when he's played on a half-back flank. When he had one particular year where he had a very good year on a half-back flank.
In about 6 weeks. About 6 weeks, that was.
Yeah. But apart from that, he's done nothing. I mean, really hasn't done very much at all. He's looked very poor when he's been playing on a wing. He's looked very poor when he's playing up forward. He doesn't seem to like physical contest very much. He's got silky skills, but that doesn't help if you haven't got the ball. So at the moment, I thought his game was terrible, really terrible. In fact, he hasn't really played a good game since he's come back into the side. He's been gifted a season.
He's been gifted a season, and that really annoys me because it's at the expense of one or two others that probably could have done with 20 games or 15 games of AFL football.
Yeah, that's true. And look, I do agree with the comment. Look, he's had a lot of injury and he might be better next year, but I think he's been lucky to play a lot of the games that he has this year.
Yeah. Darcy Fogarty, only the 7 touches, but made him count 3 goals too. Didn't get a lot of good service, but just continued his good run in the second half of the year, and looking forward to what he brings next year. Patrick Parnell, Mac?
Well, I think he does okay. I don't think he's doing any worse than his predecessor.
But he's another pint-sized, lightweight player, and to be honest with you, he turns the ball over a bloody lot.
Yeah, look, that's one of the problems we do. We do have too many small players. But he didn't have a good game. I agree with that. I don't know. I would like to see taller players than that in our side, because we're a pretty short side.
Our use of the mid-season draft in the last 2 years has been horrific. Absolutely horrific.
I agree with you. Absolutely. I mean, the word that the player that we took in the mid-season draft this year, he's never going to play an AFL game for us. We just wasted a pick.
No, it's 2 wasted picks, and there were players there that we could have taken that would have been far better. Anyway, Benny Davis did more than Wayne Miller in about 10 minutes of football. Only got 5 kicks. Poor old Benny. Might have been his last game for the club, I think.
I think it will be his last. He's been there 6 years. Only player, and he's played a handful of games. Reminds me of the Matthew Smith who played for the Crows, or didn't play for the Crows, 6 years on our list and never played one game. I think 6 years is long enough. It's long enough.
Yeah, I think I know you're not a big G for him. I think he could have actually had an AFL career at another club. I think another club may have found a spot for him, maybe as a halfback flanker or a winger or something like that. I don't think he got served particularly well by selection with us. Anyway, I've no argument that, he was last on this year, and I think he'll be first off. Nick Murray didn't do a lot with it except took a contender for mark of the week and showed a little bit in ruck and up forward. Is he a smoky for our ruck forward position with Thilthorpe being our first ruck, Mac?
Possible. He's not the most skilled player that's going around, but he's a very aggressive, strong player. At times I like him, and at other times I think, God, why have we got him? So, I have mixed feelings on it. But, as they say, he would serve serviceable. And one thing you do know about him, he will always give 100%. So you might be right for me. He might be handy in that respect.
He certainly offers a lot more aggression aerially than Elliot Himmelberg.
Oh, I like his aggression.
You'd need a fair bit of honing, but I'm a bit of a fan of. I'm a bit of a fan of Murray because he's an old-fashioned footballer. He just goes out and kills people, and that's not a bad thing.
Raw. He's raw as though, and he needs a.
Oh, it's very raw. Yeah. Hello.
You there, Pete?
He just dropped away there for a minute.
Oh, okay. Right, who's next?
He's raw, Macca, but I don't mind someone. But as long as he keeps taking out opposition players rather than ours, that'll be fine. And Jimmy Rowe, we've talked about Rowe. Another waste, in my opinion, and needs to be delisted or got rid of or something or other. There's talk about the Dogs wanting him. I don't know why they'd want him. I don't know why any club would want him. I don't know what he brings.
They can have him.
Well, I don't know what he brings, to be honest.
Look.
No. Don't even try to defend him, Mac. What does he bring?
Nothing. I mean, it's not his fault. I mean, they drafted him. They drafted him. He wasn't all that bad last year, but he's been shown up this year, and he doesn't bring enough.
No, he brings no defensive pressure. He brings no. He hasn't hit the scoreboard. We need look at how many goals Tyson Stengel has kicked this year for Geelong. And fair enough, he's got more service, but that's what Jimmy Rowe was supposed to be replacing. We needed 25 to 30 goals.
Yeah, but I've never ever seen him played in the forward pocket yet, though, Payne.
No, because we've got this tactic of playing our half forwards and our small forwards up high to compress the midfield because we're all around contest and pressure around the ball. That's the problem. Maybe if you played James Rowe as a bona fide forward pocket and said don't leave the 50, then we might get some goals out of him. But I still contend that even with that, he fails with defensive pressure.
Well, I watched him play in the Sandford with the West Torrens, and look, he used to play around the goals, and he was a very good player, and used to read it beautifully off hands, etc. But he doesn't play that position in the AFL, and where he's played, he doesn't work. It doesn't work for him.
No, but even then, Mac, even like I said, even if we did play a similar game style, he still offers nothing defensively. No.
That's probably the very big weakness. That is the weakness.
We have a massive problem. How many times this year have we got destroyed by a rebounding halfback? I count 5 or 6 times. I count 5 or 6 times that we've got destroyed from a rebounding halfback, and James Rowe, along with McHenry and Murphy, are complicit in that. They don't offer enough in the way of frontal defensive pressure.
Yeah, look, you're totally right. It's hard. You can't argue about that. But I still think that his only chance he was ever going to succeed at AFL level was to be played in a forward pocket and stay in the forward pocket. But that's not how they played him, and I don't think it's worked out for him at all.
But we haven't had it. We don't have a clunking forward. It's like, and look, remember, Mac, we went through this earlier in the season and last year about analysing our forward 50 entries, and nothing really has changed. When we are under pressure in the midfield, our forward 50 entries start from too far back and they are far too shallow. So we are contesting marks 45 metres out from goal, and we're contesting those marks with players that aren't suited to that type of delivery, and we've got no one at their feet. So we leave ourselves so vulnerable because we're always one kick short on transition. And the reason we're one kick short on transition is because we don't have enough runners.
Yeah. Can't argue with that.
And the only way that Nix has got to overcome that is by playing this down-the-line football and hope for contest after contest after contest. That's why we play it. As soon as we open up the ground, we get exposed, and we get exposed for a lack of pace and a lack of defensive work rate. And that's the biggest problem that we've got to solve, I think, is our ability to spread defensively and to cover behind the ball a little bit better, and our ability to be able to work the ball more proactively off half-back when we've got it, rather than just this kicking down the line shit.
Oh, that is one of our... Well, we've been talking about that ever since we've been doing I've been on the cast, the same problem.
Yep, never been any different. So, if they want to get real about it, there's some decisions they have to make. I'm very happy for the club to pursue Rankin, but desperately need some class through the midfield. Desperately need some class through the midfield. Now, I don't know whether any of that's available on the trade table this year. The only real midfielder of note that I've seen is Dunkley and Hopper are the two that are sort of talked about. But unless we've got something up our sleeve, it doesn't sound like Jason Horne-Francis is going to be on the table, and I don't know how we get Rankin and Horne-Francis anyway. So that means we're going to have to go to draft. And we don't have a good record at the draft.
It isn't Dunkley a free agent?
Yeah, but he's going to Port.
Well, I think he is, because we were quite into him at one stage, and when he said 800 grand, we ran away.
Yeah, well, I don't think he's an $800,000 player, do you?
I think he is.
You reckon Dunkley's an $800,000 player?
He's a very good player. Very good player.
Just don't think he offers the class that we need, mate.
Somebody said he's vanilla. He's a little bit vanilla. I do agree with that, but he's good at clearances. He's also very good around the ground. Particularly around the ground. He gets a lot of the ball. And he's he's quite a good size. He's that bigger midfielder, and he takes very good overhead marks as well. No, he's a good player, but maybe not the right fit, but he would certainly be better than what we've got. But
I don't want to drag on this discussion too long, but I will say that we've become better at picking up players that want to come home. Jordy Dawson, obviously, we've got probably front running for Isaac Rankin, etc. But maybe it's time, with the cap space that we clearly must have, maybe it's time that we actually get a little bit more proactive and try to prize a good midfielder out with a Godfather offer.
Yep. I agree.
I'm happy to pay overs for a top quality 25-year-old mid that isn't South Australian, that hasn't ever thought about coming to Adelaide, but we give them an offer that's too good to refuse. Say I'm just picking a name off the top of my head, Tim Taranto, for example. That kind of a player who's on the cusp of being a really good player, and just putting an offer in front of him that he can't refuse. Tom Green?
Yeah, I think that Taranto's already got that sort of offer from a lot of the Victorian clubs, so I don't think there's any chance.
No, but that's what I'm saying. You've got to outbid these clubs by a fair way. If Taranto's got an offer of 800 on the table from a Victorian club, then we need to put 1.1 in front of him. That's what we're going to have to do, Mac. If we're not going to, if we're not going to rely on the draft, then the only other way we're going to do it, because there aren't any fantastic South Australian midfielders running around at the moment.
I think Philippou in the draft.
No, I'm not talking about the draft. I'm talking about running around at the moment. You don't know what Philippou's going to be. I agree with you. Philippou looks a really likely type. But you don't know what Philippou's going to be. I'm talking about a bona fide, certified 25-year-old midfielder who is on the cusp or has reached, that classy level.
Well, that's exactly what we do need.
And you're going to have to pay for that.
And I agree with you. And I'm quite happy to do exactly what you said, to pay over and above. I don't know who it would be, but I hope that they are doing that, because we do have a lot of cap space. We've got enough players. We've got enough cap space to bring in Rankin and another top player. So I just hope we are.
Well, otherwise it's going to be quite a long, slow rebuild, because you are looking at, blokes like Sam Philippou, who looks pretty good. You may be looking at getting a second-year Jason Horne-Francis back next year if things don't work out at North, and that's probably only a 40-60 chance now. We're looking at, organic growth from our own midfield stocks. But, we've had so many misses with midfielders. Chase Jones, Demick Henry, Lukey Pedler is not coming on. We don't have a lot of good midfield stocks that are first round picks. We just need to go and pick one off.
We do need a classy one.
Yeah. Sorry, Matthias Philippou, not Sam. My mistake. Anyway. All right. Well, look, Mac, we might just leave it up there. The
best players?
Trade. Let's go through our best players. Just to finish
Very
off,
hard.
just hang on a second. I will find it. I forgot to bring it up. Go ahead.
Well, look, and I'm not set in stone in any of these, so it was very, very, very hard. So I gave 5 to Laird. I gave 4 to Fogarty. He kicked 4 goals on very limited chances. I gave 3 to Soligo, who I thought was excellent. 2 to O'Brien, who I thought really busted his guts in the ruck. And I tossed up between Berry or Thilthorpe for the 1 point. And I'm just going to go avant-garde, and I'll give 1 point to Thilthorpe.
Avant-garde, Mac.
Yeah.
Avant-garde, there's a word. Yeah, all right. Now, I haven't even thought much about mine. Let me have a think about it. I reckon Rory Laird probably was my best with 5. Berry with 4. I'm going to go Darcy for 3.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, then it gets hard, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was hard. Soligo?
It's hard. Yeah, probably Soligo for 2, and probably... look, I'm going to give Riley O'Brien 1, because he just, as you say, he didn't stop trying.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
But very, very hard. Very, very hard this week.
It was.
Now, Matt, that brings us to the end, because my voice is giving out, apart from a lot of other things. Next week, we're going to have a podcast just to preview the final series. At the same time, we'll also announce the winner of our tipping competition and our fantasy footy competition. Thanks for Razor and to 1990 Crow for running those 2. We'll have those in next week. And and then that'll probably do us until grand final week. So we might have a couple of weeks off, I reckon, until grand final week. Preview grand final, and then of course we'll do our normal trade and draft things as they come through. So we'll be on again next week, and we'll wind up all the bits and pieces, announce our Crowcast Best and Fairest and the People's Choice Best and Fairest. So that'll be a bit of housekeeping to do next week, mate. Should be a good one, and we'll preview the final series as well.
Sounds good to me, Fane.
In the meantime, thanks to everyone who's joined us on Discord and YouTube, obviously, and thanks also for those of you who have supported us on Patreon. Couldn't do it without all your assistance, and it's been fantastic. I just want to comment, Macca, that our Discord membership now is up to 290, which is fantastic. Our
Excellent.
YouTube subscriptions are over 500, which is great. If you are listening on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, it would really help us if you would, because I'd like to get it to 1,000 so that we can actually start doing some community stuff on YouTube. Another year of great growth for the Crowcast in a year that hasn't been all that exciting for the Crows themselves. So I do appreciate everyone who has given us their support. The season's not over, of course. We will see you again next week at the same time. Until then, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Thanks, Macca, again, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. Good night, all.